Coming up next year is the 10th anniversary of Five Nights at Freddy's, and it goes without saying that FNAF would nearly be as big as it is today without all of the hundreds if not thousands of fan games that have been made in this last decade. And with the year slowly coming to an end, let's take a look at how much these fan games have evolved from small, almost unplayable games in 2014 all the way to some of the best upcoming fan games in 2024. Of course, I won't be able to cover every single fan game in existence. I'll be taking a more broad perspective, looking at a collection of the more popular fan games rather than one single project for each year. But first, let us go all the way back to the year of 2014. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 had just come out around a month ago. Beside one or two fan games you can hardly call fan games, FNAF never really saw a real fan game at all. That is until mid-December. It came out of the blue, but this fan game is what people really saw and still see as the first ever Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. Five Nights at Treasure Island. From small YouTubers like Doko, who had just started getting real views on his videos, to the well-known Markiplier, they had all started making videos on this one fan game. What we now see as a glorified PNG jumpscare simulator, people back then saw this as a real, proper, well-made game. Other than Five Nights at Treasure Island, games like Five Nights at Warriors or The Return to Freddy's, formerly known as a fan-made version of FNAF 3 before it had even been released, both released around late December of 2014. Granted, YouTubers only started covering those games early 2015, but it is still interesting to note that they both came out in 2014. Now, each game already has a deep dive going into it, so I'll spare you the details. What they all have in common though is that, except for The Return to Freddy's, they all are quite impressive for being the first ever FNAF fan games being made. Sure, they in no way hold up to today's standards, but for their time, they weren't all too bad. So, to sum up 2014, all of the few fan games made are still very simple and in no way hold up with what's to come. 2015 was a year where people really started putting effort into their fan games. That is, if you ignore games like Five Nights at Thomas, Five Nights at the Krusty Krab, Five Nights at Sonic's, and so on. And I say that with all due respect because I couldn't even make a fan game on Scratch if I wanted to. And the first really polished fan games included games like One Night at Flumpty's 1 and 2 by Jonochrome, the now beloved Five Nights at Candy's by Emil Mako, or even Five Nights in Anime. Yeah, I forgot that game exists. We'll save that for a later date. Both Flumpty's and Candies had a lot going for them, with original characters, unique gameplay, and proper jump scares that didn't consist of PNGs only. Sadly, both Flumpty's 1 and 2 only were one night, if you didn't count the hard-boiled mode. Nevertheless, they still were a breath of fresh air. While Candies 1 doesn't really hold up to today's standards, in the midst of what fan games aka creepy PNG goes, wah, but it's Five Nights, were like back then, Candies really was a relic of its time, with even some people praising it more than any of the mainline FNAF games. Funnily enough, both of those games made it into what we know as the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. More on that later. Both Candies and Flumpty's have deep dives as well, so if you'd like a more deep dive going into those, then I'd suggest you watch retrospectives on both after this video. My friends Econex and Manaxa both made incredible videos on them, so be sure to give them a watch. If you'd still like to stick around, then subscribe, because 2016 was the year where some of the best fan games got their first entry. The hype for FNAF was bigger than ever. The next big FNAF game is set to release early January. But what's that? FNAF World came out, but people just did not enjoy it. So what now? People needed to play a proper FNAF game and they needed to play it now. Fine, I'll do it myself, said Emil Mako and made Five Nights at Candy's 2. But hold on, that game was also ass! Jokes and candies to aside, in 2016 multiple of what we know as the start of the best FNAF fan games were released. Those consisting of Pop Goes with its never before seen mechanics, The Joy of Creation Reborn being the first proper free-roam fan game, the first two entries of Day Shift at Freddy's with their wacky humor, and the first 3 entries of the Final Night series with some of the creepiest animatronics you'll ever see. One thing I gotta note here is that, like I said in the intro, I'm only covering fan games that a lot of people actually played. So 2016, the years before and after, all of fan games that aren't in this category I'm talking about. Those would be games on Roblox, Scratch, game chart pages with 16 downloads on them, and games like that. Anyways, what you can take from 2016 is that that's the year where people really started putting their own twist on the Five Nights formula. While most of the fan games of 2016 may not hold up to today's standards, those fan games turn out to be an example of what FNAF fans are capable of. And it only goes up from here. While most people use ClickTeam to develop their fan games, there was one project that stood out amongst all, that being the joy of creation story mode. Not only was story mode made in Unreal Engine, it was way ahead of its time, being one of the most polished FNAF fan games even today. While I could be standing here all day talking about the joy of creation, I'm not going to do that, because I already did. Other notable fan games of 2017 would be Baby's Nightmare Circus, Five Nights at Candy's 3, or Fredbear's Fright. The data shows us that even fan games that follow the simple point-and-click gameplay can still be terrifying. But don't let the good games distract you from whatever endless insight was. Following the release of FNAF 6, there was a big gap to the next big FNAF game. And except for sequels of other popular fan games like Baby's Nightmare Circus Classic Mode and Final Nights 4, there was a bit of a shortage of FNAF fan games. That is until a few months before UCN's release. A Shadow over Freddy's came out. It is being shown to us yet again that if you can build a creepy atmosphere, you can make a Five Nights at Freddy's fan game. A series of fan games I have not mentioned yet, but definitely deserve recognition, is the Jolly series, and the third installment that released in 2018. Yep, that's it. A mention of the Jolly series is all you're gonna get. That's because games like the masterpiece that is Days After Freddy's 3, the most rage-inducing fan game that is Baby's Nightmare Circus Spike Fighter,
What am I supposed to do?
Porkchop's Adventure, and plenty more amazing games were released in 2018. Yeah, the second half of 2018 really had some gems. Except for Case 2, Animatronic Survival, whatever that game is. While 2019 saw a few mainline FNAF games release, those being Help Wanted and FNAF AR, we sort of lacked proper fan games. But, do you remember Five Nights at Candy's 1? A stupid question to ask, I know, but it finally got a remaster in 2019. Say goodbye to the old visuals and say hello to visuals that still hold up to today. Not only that, in 2019 we also saw the rise of FNAF World fan games. Yes, FNAF World fan games. Mostly nobody talks about those, so I wanted to shed some light onto them. The only notable one being FNAF World Adventure. Not only that, while not following the traditional Five Nights at Freddy's gameplay, Tyke & Sons Lumberco took a completely different approach, now being a fan game of the old Chipper & Sons that Scott Cawthon made before FNAF. Closing up the year, we also got Jollibees, in my opinion a very good fan game that was sadly taken down due to the official brand disliking the game. With 2019 concluding, in 2020 we probably got the biggest news for the future of FNAF fan games. The Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. Announced by Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's in August of 2020, he promised sequels of the most popular fan games that we talked about earlier. Those include Five Nights at Candy's 4, The Joy of Creation Ignited Collection, Pop Goes Evergreen, One Night at Flumpty's 3, and lastly FNAF Plus. So right now, the hype for Five Nights at Freddy's fan games was bigger than ever. Not only that, we also got Phase 2 of Jollibees, the full release of Five Nights at Treasure Island, and Part 1 of Pop Goes Arcade. With high hopes and incredible fan games, people went into 2021 expecting bigger and better fan games. While that was true for the most part, with games like the Return to Freddy's 2 Winter Wonderland, a teaser for juniors, and a demo for the glitch attraction, things could only go up from here, right? Now, I went into the Scott Cawthon controversy in the past, so I'll be sparing you the details. Although being terrible news, luckily those news didn't affect the Fazbear fanverse in the slightest. What did though is something nobody expected. Before that, we ended 2021 with more news for FNAF Plus, the full release of One Night at Flumpty's 3, and demos for Visiting Fazbears and Shadows Awaken. Although 2022 started without that many notable fan games, we still got teasers for the Fazbear Fanverse projects, a LEGO-style FNAF fan game, again taken down because LEGO, the company, sucks, Fazbear Entertainment Storage, and finally Part 2 of Pop Goes Arcade being Pop Goes and the Machinist. Things went good, maybe a little too good. Before we saw the release of Juniors, there had to be something, or should I say, someone, who had to ruin the fun. Can you believe it? The pair situation was almost 2 years ago. If you are unaware, in May of 2022, the existence of a group chat where a few fan game developers collected leaks for huge FNAF fan games that even included Pop Goes Evergreen was leaked. It was called The Pair. They planned to release all of these leaks if things went south. Thankfully, to my knowledge, nothing big was leaked, but it still ended up cancelling what could have been incredible fan games. But the damage was done. And luckily we still got to play juniors in the end. Again, there are plenty of videos covering the pair situation in detail, so if you're interested, just search it up on YouTube. Also, before I get hate comments later, yes, I guess Roblox Forgotten Memories was also released. Now 2023 started off with a bang, with more FNAF Plus news, a fan game by the one and only Animatronic, and even a Mario Kart style FNAF game. So finally a year with only good news for FNAF fan games? Yeah, only good news. Nothing bad happening in 2023, that's for sure. Okay, fine. Oh boy, FNAF Plus really had it out with having the potential of almost being the best FNAF fan game. So, if you didn't know what happened, I'll sum it up for you real quick. After Fizzlem, the creator of FNAF Plus, got into controversy I won't talk about for obvious reasons, it led to FNAF Plus's Steam page being removed and Fizzlem willingly stepping down from the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. So I guess you could say that FNAF Plus has become lost media. To not end things on a bad note, I wanted to include this section of the video, a sort of what's next for FNAF fan games in 2024. Originally, I wanted this to be its own video, but here it is anyway. To avoid stretching out the video, I'll just do a quick fire round. Five Nights at Freddy's in real time, a game by Deltarune, that is, as the name suggests, a real-time version of the original first entry, which means you see the animatronics move in real time. A possible DLC for the glitch attraction called Beyond Salvation. Not sure if it'll come out in 2024, but if so, pretty cool. Bondi's Barnyard 2 Roots, a sequel to the all-popular Bondi's Barnyard. Same thing as before, not sure if it'll come out in 2024, but if so, pretty cool. And last but not least, a possible demo for Pop Goes Evergreen. Now this is complete speculation off of one tweet that Kane Carter posted, so take it with a grain of salt. So that pretty much wraps up the evolution of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games. It's crazy to see how we went from games that looked like they were made in MS Paint to fully fledged fan games with their own twist added to them. Not only that, to say that the Fazbear Fanverse initiative is a thing I would have never expected like 5 years ago. I know I could have gone in depth on multiple fan games, but I wanted to take a completely different approach for this one. So sorry if the video ended up a bit hectic at points. After all, I haven't posted for almost 4 months now, so sorry for that. Anyways, expect videos to maybe come out every 2 weeks or so, except for maybe mid to late January, as I got a few important tests there. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed another video from yours truly. If you're new here and you enjoyed the video, then why not subscribe, follow me on Twitter, or watch some of my other videos. But that concludes the evolution of Five Nights at Freddy's fan games. See you later.